Was she more herself in music or in architecture? As we definitely saw her shining in music, not saying that she can have many faces.
Hmm. I mean, music is for me is definitely more fulfilling because I think it is more connected with my soul than architecture or interior design. Is it creative? Yes, both are creative fields. Um, I just think that I was able to just use that creativity in other ways, you know? Um, Music made me shine because it was, yes, that was the purest reflection of myself because I was basically putting myself as a human being out there. Those lyrics, the way I wrote it, that's me. That's nobody
Mhm.
else. In interior design, you don't translate that directly. You know, that's just visual textures, shapes, forms. It's like strictly visual. Whereas when you're dealing with music, just the sequence of a melody tells you a lot about the human being. You know what I'm saying? Like when I think of, for instance, Georginette, I love that album on Liberty, and there's a song called Felicidad, and the melodies that this man, and I believe that every song that he sang, those were his melodies. I'm not sure, but you could hear the DNA whenever he sang that that was particularly his melody, and the way he applied his voice and how he sang his lyrics and his melodies was so uniquely him, and nobody can replicate that, not even his own son. So I think that when it comes to music, music is always going to be more of a reflection of a human being than anything visual can ever represent. So when I was doing design, I felt the difference, yes, but I at least had an outlet, you know, to be creative, and I was grateful for that because I was able to see the fulfilling feeling of like, oh, I made that, I created that, I put these things together and they look beautiful, and there's not a crowd that was consuming it. It was just one client or a few people, and I was okay with that, you know. But my reason to come back to music is not to be back in the limelight. It's more to fulfill myself again in this
Mhm.
stage of my life. I am now a mother of two. I am a, business owner. I have multiple, businesses that I run. And I've gone through life. I've had my fair share, and I have this urge to express myself musically again.
You need
I was
to
able, yeah, I was
put it
able to
out.
overcome, yeah. I feel it in my spirit that it needs to come out. And that's what I mean with, even though in the past there was a period where I was fighting it, where I was like, no, I'm not going back to music. There's no way I'm going back to, I'm not dealing with this shit again. But whenever I turn away, life would kind of be like, nope, you need to, you know, and with the experiences I've had in the past years, and some of them were even more traumatic than music will ever be,
Mhm.
it made me realize I was like, wait, I need music as an outlet again to express
As
all of those
therapy.
experiences. Yeah,
I saw your video, and it was a Forbes for women.
yeah,
Yeah, that was beautiful too. I was like, wow.
thank you.
It's I I believe that and actually it's I'm not gonna say I believe it. It's more a question,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna be my last question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you believe, or now, how do you want to do music differently this time?
There's many layers to that.
I know.
First is I am not leaning on any label. One, because in both instances, there was a lot of discrediting happening post, you know, after leaving. Like, oh, she didn't write her shit. She didn't do. She didn't that. I'm like, this time around, I'm doing it myself because the last thing I want, as someone who has worked hard on everything that I've worked on, one thing that is very important to me and that I felt like the first time around I didn't get is all the credit of all of my work. So me doing it myself is me ensuring that I get all my credit. Um, Second, it is I want to, and I think Vita speaks to that a little bit, where I want to be a truth teller. I want to talk about things that actually really affect us in a creative way. It doesn't have to be heavy. But I think that, for instance, that song Felicidad, I don't know why it keeps popping up in my mind.
I'm gonna
He
check it out
speaks,
afterwards.
yeah, it's a beautiful song. I would love to cover that song. He talks about anxiety. This song was released, I don't even know, in the 90s, like very old song, but he was a pioneer without, like, I didn't realize I sang this song, and then recently it dawned on me he was talking about anxiety. He even names it ansiedad.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, beautiful song. Everybody danced to it. And I don't think that many people had the consciousness to understand he was talking about anxiety, probably even depression, because he was talking about, I'm singing with a broken heart, you know?
Hmm.
And those are things you can sing about, things that affect us as humans, as a society, without actually going the heavy way. You can
Yeah.
still shed light on that and sort of highlight how we're all connected, how we're all the same.
And
So it really is
everybody
about
will take it
experience.
differently.
Oh, absolutely, because we all have different experiences and relate to things differently. But for me, it's super important because when I went through my shit in my life and I didn't have music as an outlet, and I didn't even consume music as a form of, to feel good, I saw what it does. And it's really, it's a dark place to be in. And for me, knowing that I had to find my way through it by myself and having had Vita as one of the songs that carried me through that space, I understood the responsibility of that. So I want to continue to do that. And of course, have fun music, like fun with music and creating the stuff that people appreciate, of course.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of undoing of what happened in the past, meaning I want to be one of the people that help other artists do, I don't want to say coach, but sort of like give them guidance as to how to do it themselves. Because we already see it happening on a global stage that all these labels are shifting to distribution just because they can't afford to do the whole label structure anymore. So I think that
We don't
just
need them.
confirms that. Yeah. So for me, it's like if I can teach people, artists, how to do it themselves, yeah, why not? I wished I had that when I was a young artist. I didn't have that, so I want to be that person that does that. And also talk about a lot of things that I feel like our society, I had in my hiatus, I had enough time to observe. And there's a lot of things that I think is wrong with the industry, with the society, and I want to be someone who speaks openly about these things just because I'm just tired of seeing them happening over and over again. And understanding especially the diaspora, the African diaspora. Um, and when I say African diaspora, I include the West Indies, I include, Cape
Of
Verde,
course.
all of it, because, it is the African diaspora, especially as an immigrant when we live, or even on the continent, people that have access to internet, we see the globalization happening. We see that technically we should be living life a certain way, for instance, equality for women, but then our society, for instance, why is it that female artists still make less than a male artist? Why is it that promoters talk to female artists differently than to male artists? Why? Those are things that still need to change. A lot of these people work and live in places where they understand that equality is something that they should strive for, but still they choose to live in old patterns. So for me, that's something that really I want to be part of the change and opening that conversation, understanding, hey, you wouldn't want your daughter to be dealing with the bullshit you're dealing with, or you're putting another female artist with. So why are you handling it that way? Things like that. And it takes somebody just opening their mouth and just being like, I'm going to say it out loud. Maybe it will find resonance somewhere.
I was saying something to myself as I was listening to you. Mm-hmm. You would be an amazing podcaster.
Yeah. Kaysha, don't give me more work.
I'm just doing my job as a visionary. Listen.
Thank you.
I saw that video that you sent to me from Forbes. Mm-hmm. I saw your podcast with Praça Azul, and we just spent 2 hours and a half having this conversation, and in every answer that you gave, I heard a lot of wisdom. I heard a lot of depth. That's something that I'm not learning it now. We've been talking forever, but but it's different to be able to have a conversation between homies for 2 hours in a train station. People recognize
But we always talk a lot. It's like it's never just one topic. It's like it's music, it's life, it's art, it's design. It's always been that way.
But
and I appreciate that.
It's different to have a conversation, a private conversation, and to have the ability to have the public conversation. And I really believe that in the world of right now, where everybody can self-express and just like I'm doing with this channel, I'm kind of not pivoting it, but I'm adding a layer to it when I can have meaningful conversation with artists and people from all walks of life, actually. Mm-hmm. And I can also express myself and give guidance to the people. You actually have a ton of experience, and you know how to express yourself in a way that you can hear it and be like, hey, like, listen, you should think about it. Trust me, because the things you've just said.
Thank you.
But the things you just said, this is how you do it today. This is not through music. This is not through interviews. This is not through. I mean, you have coaching, you have one-on-ones and stuff. I do it sometimes, but in reality, the way to do it today is take a camera and, like, you've said a lot of very, very meaningful things that have been resonating with people. I'm looking at the comments as you speak. Some people are just putting hearts. Some people are saying it's true. Some people, they're feeling what you say because you have the ability to be the voice, and not everybody has that. And as I'm listening to you, I'm like, damn, she has it. So
thank you.
Because you want to say those things and you want to be that person that is part of the change. And women in the industry, it cannot be my job as a man to bring women to talk about it. I can give them a platform. But not now, more than ever, you can set up a channel and You see, we don't even need to be in the same place. Have a conversation, one way, two way, three way, four way between women where you can share experiences, give each other advice. I've been seeing a lot of it. It's
and then it's necessary. It's like so
it is
overdue, and yeah, it is.
so. Listen,
But you know, I feel like I'll take that compliment, and I definitely strive to be more of a public speaker, to speak about these things. And
yes,
I think I commend you for having the discipline, because doing a podcast is a lot of work. And for you to be doing music and launching every Friday and then still do a podcast, listen, you're very your bandwidth is very broad. You are. And I feel like people need to see that more, and you need to communicate that more, because it's like, I know you do this and people know you, but I feel like people need to see you on a broader range, because you do amazing things. And I feel like a lot of artists can learn from you, because when we first connected last year, I was not even aware of all the things you do. I was like on the surface of it, yes, but not on a deep level. And speaking to you, I understood. I was like, you're very resourceful. You always have been, because I remember back in the days when, this is like 2007, where we already had met, and I understood you had Shada wear, you had all these things going on. You were always someone who was pioneering how to create all these different streams of income, and not just solely being an artist. And I thought that was something that I was always impressed by. And to see that you still do it to this day, you have definitely evolved it to something completely different that I think every artist needs to see. I think that that's also something that I wanted to point out in this conversation, that you not only are who you are as a legend in music, you also are a legend as an entrepreneur, that many people need to discover that.
I need to sign my contract with Host Down quick so that they can talk about it.
Please. You need to communicate yourself more. I feel like I'm like doing your publicity. Like when I was talking, he launches music every Friday.
I don't even know how I do.
Know?
The only person that's crazy beautiful as me is Malcolm Beats.
There you go.